Hello everybody. This demonstration is to learn how to throw a cup. With this one, your weight that you'll need is going to be 1.5 pounds, which I have over here in this ball of clay. Now right now I'm just kind of cleaning this up a little bit just because I like to have a little bit of a cleaner bat than what I had. So I'm just going to threw a little bit of water on there, just kind of going around it. It's getting out all clean. I'm going to turn this back on again. I'm going to grab my rubber rib, set this down, and then just slowly start coming off to the side, and then she's as kind of good as new. Okay, get the sweat a little bit more. You can even make these little spiral demonstrations and stuff like that. It's kind of fun. So trying to get too distracted as you're trying to clean this up, because you can spend the entire hour just playing with that part of it. Okay, I'm gonna shut this wheel off. Remember, if this does slide, you got to make sure that this is nice and dry here. You also got to scrape along the bottom here. Try to protect the people around you. Throw that back down again, and she should stick. Okay, so I'm gonna get this centered again. I'm not gonna spend as much time as I did on the bowl on showing centering. I'm just gonna kind of walk through it. So first up, push down so it's nice and attached. V-shape, both hands together, push in about 1 inch. Keep your hands still, so that's centering everything. Cry chop, get that bone right on top of that, push down just a little bit, and slide your hand down, pushing in the whole time, and getting this nice and centered. Again, if you really struggle with centering, watch that first video again. You'll skip ahead until you get the centering part, and hopefully that'll help, and then I'll also try to help you in class, okay? Okay, next step is to put your both hands together and one thumb in. So both hands together, right hand, find that center right here, push down. Okay, and I stop, and stop the wheel. Push this down, check it. Yep, it's good. So it's about 1/2 inch from the bottom. And 1/2 inch is a little on the thick side, but 1/4 inch is a little on the thin side, so it is kind of a little bit between there. Okay, next step is I'm gonna do the same thing. Nothing's different yet. So I'm gonna get my hands in here, 1 finger or 2 fingers or 3 or whatever. I'm gonna pinch and then pull up. Let's speed the wheel up just a tad bit. Again, I'm gonna pinch. This clay is a little on the softer side, so I'm trying to be really careful not to pinch too hard. Again, just pulling that cylinder like you do for these projects. So I'm gonna pinch again. Okay, top is a little uneven. I'm going to gently squeeze the side here, rest this trim, rest the needle tool against my thumb like I've showed you in the other video. Slowly go in, a little lower than you think you do, and just kind of lift up after you know you've gone through all the way. So big thing with that is just about patience. Okay, let's check the measurements. So right now I am almost at 4. And I'm 4 tall still, so I need to make this a little bigger for my cup. Otherwise your cup is just way too small. Get my small sponge. So I'm gonna pinch, get all that clay there. And bring this up. Check again. Okay, I'm at 4 now. And trying to get to 4.5, so I'm almost there. I'm gonna pinch a little bit harder on the bottom here. Okay, let me see that one. That might be at my measurements, which is 4 by 4.5. So I'm at 4, and I'm almost at 5. Okay, so that's the first part of the cup. I'm gonna trim my foot right now just because I'm thinking about it. So I have my double and a loop tool, so you don't always have to trim the foot last. Just gonna go in, gonna take a little bit off, clean it off, going a little bit slowly. Okay. Now with the cup, you need to create this curve on top of here, so your handle, when you put your handle on, the handle goes up and then back down again like this. So we're gonna do something called choking or collaring. There's different terms for it. I should really look that up. Find out which one's what. I'm gonna take my hands, I'm gonna go about an inch and a half down from the top, and I'm just gonna take my fingers and I'm gonna kind of squeeze them together, pretty lightly, and then bring my hands apart. Now, you should notice now that I have this little bit of a curve here. I need to bring this out a little bit more. So I'm gonna put my finger right inside that curve, kind of like you're trying to stop somebody from sneezing, and then make sure everything is nice and slippery, and then just kind of pull that lip out a little bit more to kind of define that. So now my handle can actually go on around. Now, again, this is your foot on the bottom. You have this other curve down here. And this time you can do this method where you take your fingers here. I mean, you can still choke the bottom if you really want to. I'm gonna come across here. I'm gonna kind of squeeze my pinkies together, and I'm gonna let go. So I'm trying to define more of a curve here. Now I'm gonna take, like I did with my bowl, I'm gonna just push my pinky in, or I'm sorry, my index finger in to create even more of a defined line. Because now I have a spot where my handle can come up and then go in and attach. Okay, gonna clean this up here just a little bit. Help redefine that curve or that foot just a little more with my fingernail. And then you have your cup. Okay, so again, the measurements on this one, I'm gonna double check because this is how you get your A. Again, I'm actually at 4.5 now, and almost at 5. Okay, so that's how you do the first part of the cup. Next demonstration is show you how to do the handle. But you do have to wait this dry for a little bit. So this is where if you throw this like in the morning, you can leave it unbagged, and by the end of the day, it would be good. Otherwise, if this is a later class, you'll have to bag this up first for overnight. And then very carefully, you put the bag on very carefully and leave a lot of air inside there. Try not to let the plastic touch this, otherwise it kind of damages a little bit. And then in the morning, you want to come back and just carefully take that bag off, and then by the time you have class at the end of the day, it should be good for you to put the handle on, okay? Other than that, again, get everything cleaned up, and watch this video a few times if you're struggling with it, and I will also try to help you in class. Thanks. Hello, everybody. I'm going to show you how to finish up your cup. So it is the next day right now. I'm going to pull the project out right here. Look to see how it is. So right now, I'm going to kind of put my finger on it and just gently move a little bit back and forth. I'm going to kind of adjust the angle so you can see everything I'm going to be doing right down here. So I have my wire tool, same thing that we use for our plates that you'll be seeing here in a little bit. And again, I just want to treat this as kind of like a dental floss. Kind of wrap it around my finger a little bit. I get my thumbs on top, and then I want to slide and pull this towards myself. And then that cuts this right off of your bat. Now, just like your plate, or just like your bowls, you do want to smooth this side out. This is still a little on the wet side, so I'm just going to, instead of using a tool, I'm going to use my finger to kind of go around on this and kind of clean it up. Also going to grab the sponge and some water. So I got my water, got my sponge. I'm going to lift this up, and I do want to take care of this foot because it'll be easier right now than when I have the handle on it. And just clean it up, make sure it's all smooth. So this is all finished and it's nice and clean. Now is also probably a good time to put my name on it because it's just easier at this point. So I'm going to flip this over, go down butcher, and whatever year it is. So next part is to put the handle on it. I do like to raise it up a little bit, so I'm going to grab a bucket right here. Take this, put this bat back on, so I can get to it a little bit easier. So it's right here. So if I'm sitting down, you know, kind of same thing. You can grab even like your bucket, you know, you could probably use, or you can grab one of the ones that are above the sink behind me. So I have this all set. I have a piece of clay here. I grabbed it out of the recycle bin, and now we put a handle on it. So I'm going to take this clay, and this is probably about, I don't know, probably like a golf ball sized piece of clay, is I'm going to roll a coil. When we get into our coil building project, you might have already have done it depending on when we do this project, we do hand roll these. So I'm just putting my hand on over top of it, going across. Remember, if it does flatten out, you can take this and twist it and then re-roll it, and it does kind of take care of that flatness. So I'm trying to decide right now in terms of how thick I want this handle to be. It's going to be extremely fragile until after you glaze it. You'll be able to pick it up after you fire it the first time, which is your misfiring. But you want to be very careful with it. You definitely do not want to touch it while it's drying. So I have this. It's definitely more than I need. So I'm going to take my needle tool, and I'm going to zoom in on here so you can see this. And I'm going to slice at a downward angle so it looks like that. And I'll lift this up so you can see like this. Now this is going to attach onto the cup like this. And I look at this and I decide, like, where do I think it would look the best? In most cases, it won't affect where you put it at. You know, but if you have like a gouge or something that you want to kind of hide, you know, this would be a good spot to do it. Now this is not bone dry. This is a little bit flexible, so it's not quite leather hard. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about this cracking off with that, or adding any kind of a slip onto it. But I do want to take my needle tool and I want to decide on where I want this to attach. So I'm going to kind of zoom in again so you can see, is I'm going to score this area right here because I want my handle to attach, and I'm going to draw kind of just, I'm not even going to touch them, I'm just drawing a imaginary line and draw right below it. And this is why these curves are so important, because I'm going to have my handle come up, it's going to go along here, come back down, and then go inside of here. So it has lots of areas that it's touching. If you don't have that, then you won't have as many areas, and there's a higher chance that your piece will actually crack off or come off because you're not really attaching it very well. Okay, so this is all scored. So it's kind of like, you can imagine like Velcro. You really want to kind of chop that up a little bit, and it'll just attach that much easier. Okay. Now I'm going to get some slip, and I'll show you how to use that. And this is what we use this for, is it's just the clay that you use on the pottery wheel. Add a little bit of water to it, put it in a blender, and you get this really fine consistency of wet clay. And I'm just going to kind of pour a little bit out on here, because then I can let somebody else have it, because I don't need any more than that, and I have the clay that I need. I'm going to grab my needle tool here, just kind of scoop some up, put it inside of there. You can take your finger as well if you want and kind of dab on there. So however you want to get it on, you get it on. And you could honestly just push it directly on there as well. So what this does is it acts as like a glue. And it's just nice to have it anytime you're attaching two pieces of clay together. The exception is like if they're exactly the same consistency, like you're building it the same day, same pieces, then you don't necessarily need to do that. But if you waited some period of time, then you should. Now I'm going to take this, and just because it's easy, I'm going to score this area as well. And now I want to kind of gauge on how much I'm going to need. So I'm going to pinch this off, because this is about how much I think I'm going to need. Now I can always take more off. So you can always take a little more than you think you're going to need. So I'm going to try to turn this around so you can see how I'm attaching this. So I have this on here. Now I'm going to press this in and use my fingers and my thumb to really work that into the cup. Now, if your clay is still, if your clay on there here in terms of your cup is still too wet, we do have something called a heat gun. This is what this is. And you can use this to dry this down a little bit. This is located underneath our chop saw and our drill press. You can get it out, hook it up, and then you just kind of, put it on the whole thing, kind of moving around as you're kind of doing it, and it does dry that off pretty well. So if you do have that situation, there is a fix. Still working this clay in on this side. Really trying to make sure that it's attached well. And then I'm smoothing it so you can't really necessarily see where the cup ends and the handle begins. There's also tools like this. It's called a wood shaper. Again, all of our tools are back in that area next to the metal cubbies that are there, or the lockers, and you can look for this. It's like the second to the top shelf. So if you have a hard time getting in, you can use any of the sides on here really, but it's a way for you to kind of get into an area that you wouldn't normally be able to get into. So they're a very, very handy tool to use. Okay, next part. So I'm going to get this attached down here. So the thing I'm looking for grade-wise is that it's coming up and then down and around. And you don't want this to look like a giant elephant here. This is a little on the big side still. You want to, comfortably get your hand in there, but you don't want a gap like I have a massive gap there. So I do have too much. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to pinch this clay off again. Bring this down. Look at it again. Get down at an angle, and that's pretty good. One thing I do want to look at is that in terms of like washing dishes, there are times that you don't necessarily want to have this handle above this line. So if I can take this tool and I can hit that handle, I can bring this down a little bit right here, take this off and bring this down so it doesn't go above there. I don't mind that too much. I don't want you going way above because it'll just break right off, even if you kind of do everything else right. I want to smooth this off because it's cracking a little bit. But I feel like this is a comfortable size. It's not too big, not too small. I'm also looking directly down alongside of here, so if you were me, I want to make sure that it's not crooked. And right now it looks a little crooked, so right now is the best time to kind of shift that over. Okay, so that's fixed. And now I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to work this clay into this area. And because I have that curve, it's touching lots of spots instead of just at the point of where I just kind of put that first line in. So having those curves are extremely important. I'm going to grab my shaper again, kind of turn this around so you can see what I'm doing. Just really working this into the clay. And then this will not pop off, because unfortunately some of you guys, when you do this, you'll do this, but then the next day you'll see and it actually cracked off because you didn't work it in good enough. Okay, so it's a little rough. You can grab the sponge, wipe everything down. Your glaze will hide some of it. Make sure that it's centered, on there, so it's not really crooked. Sometimes I have to kind of step back a little bit and look at it. It's a little crooked. I'm going to slide it over just a tad bit. Otherwise, I think this is good for the next step. Okay. Again, you do not pick this up by here, especially now. You're just gonna rip the whole thing off. Next thing is something called a thumb grip. So I'm going to take kind of like a small grape size piece of clay. I'm going to roll it into a ball. And then I'm going to kind of zoom on here because I want to take my thumb and I want to push into the clay and then kind of back out a little bit. So it has like this thumbprint indent on there. Then I'm going to score here. I'm going to zoom in on the cup. I'm going to score both on the cup itself and on the handle. So hopefully you can see that. Maybe I can hold the sponge so you can see it as I kind of work on it. So I scored this, scored that. Grab some of my slip right here. Add that slip on. I take my thumb grip. I'm actually going to put it in the slip. So I have the slip, so I have it on there, and then I'm going to attach this on. Take the sponge off here, and attaching it is just basically kind of just sitting it there, because that slip will act as that glue, and this isn't holding any weight this first time around. After I fire it, and after I glaze it especially, it'll have a coat of protection that's on there. And now when I grab this, or anybody grabs this, they have a place to put their thumb, and it fits nicely. It's on there. So this is how you put a handle on. Once you're done with it, again, set this on your shelf or wherever I kind of tell you, if I tell you something a little bit different. But you don't want to touch this until after you get it back, after I fired it, and it has that big piece. But there's your cup for your place setting. Good luck in your project, and again, let me know if you have any questions.